As a lifelong border resident, O'Rourke supports our trade ties with Mexico and our need to sustain and encourage those ties, despite the anti-Mexican malice that emanates from the White House. In fact, he once partnered with Cornyn on a bill to improve those economically critical border crossings. He opposes dump trucks war, not only because it's an absurd and colossal waste, but also because he objects to the government's use of eminent domain. While he may look like the second coming of Bobby Kennedy to DC pundits, political... I hadn't thought about that. But I can see that. I can see him being on the Judiciary Committee in a Kamala Harris Joe Biden presidency in 2020. Let's go, Black America. Let's go, Black America. Oh my God. You want to put the fear of God is... Hey. Man, see, I'm about to smoke my last Newport on that one. I'm about to smoke my last Newport on that one, y'all. I'm about to smoke my last Newport on that one. I'm about to smoke my last Newport on that one. Oh, man. Do you know what kind of shock that would be to them white folks who thought that a black man shouldn't have been president in 2008 and who went and voted to replace him with this idiot? Can you imagine what message that would send to the progress of America, to the progress of world affairs, if right after that, a black woman is elected? Go ahead. Go ahead, man. And rightly so, we haven't heard any nonsense about Kamala Harris not being born in America, so I hope when she does become president, y'all don't come out here and talk about she wasn't born here. You know what I mean? Her peoples wasn't born here, but at the same time, she was born here, y'all. So shut that shit up. Yeah, that part right there. This would be a Texan who will be representing, yes, because the reason why I say, because Beto O'Rourke, for better or for worse, grew up in the conservative Texas, and he understands the elements of fiscal conservatism. You know what I mean? Like Jerry Brown of California does. At some point, I thought a ticket of Jerry Brown and Muriel Bowser would work better because there's a linkage between the current Democratic Party and their loss of fiscal conservatism. I just fucked that word up. The current Democratic Party and along the way losing the sense of fiscal conservatism that it was known for when it was the Republican Party of the days of Lincoln. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yes, it does. If you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Yo, the Washington Post, man. Yeah, y'all need to come back. I know, yes, just please, even for like the last 2 weeks headed towards the election or just for the rest of the year, just go back to your old slogan, please, for a second. You know what I mean? Democracy is in darkness because of who's in the White House. I get it, and who's controlling Congress, but let's show people that if by now that darkness, that dark stain on America's democratic history, because this guy is a stain. This period, this last 18 months is forever going to be known as a stain in American history. But that stain will be the thickness of the color of that stain. I'm going all Dr. King on y'all motherfuckers right about now. The thickness of the color of that stain, depends on our response by the people of color of these United States of America. I told you I just want all Martin Luther King Jr. Y'all motherfuckers, man. Let me stop. Let me stop. Phil Knight, thank you. I'm just saying, man. Let's go. I just went on Dr. King on y'all, man. I don't remember what I said, but yes. The stain that this administration is on the fabric of American democratic ideals, the stain that he is, the thickness of that stain will be lessened with the participation in the electoral process by the people of color of these United States of America. I ain't lying, y'all. This man is quite literally the bane of the progress of what it is to be living in 21st century democratic America. He's the absolute bane of their existence. But I digress, so. While he may look like the second coming of Bobby Kennedy to DC pundits, political scientist Jay Ayaya of Texas Southern University has written, Texans can see that O'Rourke has more in common with the politics and approach of former Lieutenant Governor Bill Harvey, who advocated for modernizing Texas through bipartisan cooperation during his time leading the Texas Senate. Ayaya, I ain't never heard of him. I ain't never heard of Lieutenant Governor Bill Harvey. I didn't know too much of him. I mean, he was a Texan advocating for modernizing Texas through bipartisan cooperation. That's probably why I hear him. You know what I mean? He was doing good things for Texas. So, yeah. Ayaya also compared O'Rourke to Lloyd Bernstein, Ann Richards, and Mark White. Reform-minded Democrats all who recognize the need to expand opportunities systematically when leading a conservative state. There is one more reason O'Rourke should represent Texas in the U.S. Senate. He will help to serve as a check on the president who is a danger to the republic. Told you that motherfucker is a stain on this fucking... Cruz is unwilling to take on that responsibility. Indeed, the man who delighted in calling the Texas Senator Lying Ted all through the 2016 presidential campaign, who insulted Cruz's wife and his father, is bringing his traveling campaign medicine show to Houston next week to bayou the Cruz campaign. The hyperbole, the hypocrisy, and the rancorous hat here just might blow the roof of the Toyota Center. While the bloviations emanate from the arena next week, imagine how refreshing it would be to have a U.S. Senate who not only knows the issues but respects the opposition, who takes firm positions but reaches out to those who disagree, who expects to make government work for Texas and the nation. Beto O'Rourke, we believe, is their senator. Trying to tell y'all, man. Oh, Trump is going to be there next week. Okay, ain't nothing wrong with that. That's what's up. Ain't nothing wrong with that, buddy. Hey, buddy. Buddy. Hey, I know I'm talking about voting for senators and House of Representatives and all that, but it's another pretty important grouping that is, yeah. This was from January the 5th of 2018, this year. And it's from Vox.com. It's titled, Republicans Control 33 Governors' Mansions. Democrats want to put a dent to that in 2018. We were always going to be on the offense this cycle. By Ella Nielsen. And it reads, newly minted Democratic Governors Association Chair Jay Inslee is staring out at a sea of red as he looks ahead of the governor's race in 36 states this November. The Washington State Governor and others at the DGA are up against steep odds. Across the country, there are currently 33 Republican governors compared to just 16 Democrats, plus a lone independent, Alaska Governor Bill Walker. Of these, Democrats are especially zeroing in on 13 in 2018. Hey, do you know that if there are more than 40, if there are more than 40 governors that are Democratic in this country by January of 2019, right? 400 years after the first slaves were brought to America. Do you know if there are more than 40 governors represented, being from the Democratic Party, representing their states, 40 states in this country? The 13th Amendment's loophole that led to the direct-indirect prison industrial complex can be ratified, can be squashed, can be taken out. That loophole can be taken out. Even with a conservative Supreme Court, it has to be fought in the courts for it to get to that point, but at least it would have been a congressional act that would be ratified by states, by 2/3 of states. Since there are only 50 states, I say 40 because for filibuster reasons. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Not just the governor's mansions, the state legislatures too. The state legislatures have to be overwhelmingly Democratic, just for the next wave of maybe 1 or 2 presidential terms. Even if we can't do for the next 50 years, just for the next state of maybe 2-3 presidential cycles. We have to be gung-ho about doing the mundane things that gets the required results, you know what I mean? Because for real, the Republican Party has proved itself to not want to be on the side of forward progress. They want to always keep shit back to the old school status quo of locking up minorities for no reason. Minor offenses turn into lifetime consequences that keep you down in position. I'm just saying, it's just so much shit that's, you know, like, people power, man. You know, I digress though. Of these, Democrats are especially zoning on 13 in 2018. This year's midterm will be a pivotal test for Democrats. With an increasing embattled Republican Party and an energized Democratic base, the political winds are looking favorable for them. Still, man, black folks ain't trying to go vote, y'all. Y'all need to stop thinking maybe my man Clarence was telling me, the guy who was telling me about 200 years from now, they'll only... I remember 2 presidents, Washington and Obama, and I added Lincoln into, you know what I mean? He said he had it somewhere, but he was telling me that, he said, oh, don't be surprised, there are a lot of people who feel how I feel. I said, I get it, it's a lot, but it's also a lot of people who have been affected, poor minorities who have been affected, who are in position, and who could give 2 flying fucking fucks. I ain't trying to say like that, but I see and hear it every goddamn day, yo. Like, that shit is sad. Like, it is a problem, man. It is a problem. Like, if you can, I couldn't just record this and put it out in just my voice. I want you to see how I feel about it, you know what I mean? Like, whether you think I'm smacked, whether you think I'm high, whether you think I'm not sober, whether you think I'm not in my right mind, I am a sound motherfucking mind, trust me. I'm not performing open heart surgery here. I'm good. Don't blame it on the Mary Jane. Blame it on your lack of wanting to go stand in line and go vote. Or you can send in the ballot, but just go stand in line and go vote. Especially if you ain't doing nothing. You know what I mean? But I digress though. The midterms will also have very serious consequences for the future of the U.S. House. Whichever party wins more state legislative and governor seats will have the chance to influence legislative redistricting in 2022 when new congressional voting districts will be redrawn. Republicans have benefited from gerrymandering in the past, and if Democrats want to stop or change Republican redistricting, they must do well in 2018. The high stakes are not lost on Inslee. This is a moment that's a once-in-a-50-year opportunity, and it calls for maximum effort, he said in a recent interview with Vox. How the map is shaping up out of the 36 told y'all, man. They took Dr. King out 50 years ago, and they took RFK out like literally 2 months later. Try and tell y'all, man, it is not a motherfucking joke, y'all. If you black in America, don't sleep on this moment. You will forever regret it. And if you have a record, you think you can't vote, especially if you're living in a state where the law might not be such, try and see. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. You're still a citizen of these United States. Believe it or not. That means something. Whether you don't realize it or not, that means something. Funny story, right? True story though. This lady that had emigrated to the United States. She left Sierra Leone like maybe in the 60s and 70s. And she had came to America, had a family and all that over here and all that. And she had traveled back in the 90s during the war, during the Civil War, the numerous times of Civil War. And so she had visited with one of her grandkids. Her grandkids was born in the United States, was a citizen. Because the grandmother had come, had her children, you know, how the cycle go. The same chain immigration that this dumbass wants to stop when he doesn't realize that that's, you know what, I'll for shut up. But back to my true story though. And during the war, they got stuck in and because the grandchild was a citizen, when they were in the country, the U.S. Embassy knows every citizen that actually comes and reports in to the embassy, so the embassy would know just in case something happened. That's out there, especially during wartime. So they had went and visited some families in the provinces, and the family got attacked. And not the family specifically got attacked. They were not targeted because they knew who they were. They were not of any importance. But just because that child was a U.S. citizen, especially was a child, yes, she was a black child, but yes, still they were in the third world country. Yes, they do rescue them. I know it's hard to believe that a black child will get rescued, yes, but they do get rescued still. You still have good-hearted Americans that worked in those embassies in those days, especially when it's a child's life at stake, you know what I mean? So, they send U.S. Marines. When I say U.S. Marines went out to the provinces, that the atrocities, that the fighting that was going on, they try to track down at the home address, the place and wait at the grandmother was with the child. So they got to the house, so they got to the place where they found the child and the child's grandmother. They got them out into the chopper, airlifted them, got them out to the embassy, and from the embassy was able to get them to the airport and got them out of the country and all that. But that old lady to this day, she said it to then, you know what I mean? Back then, she said she would never underestimate the value of what it means to be a U.S. citizen. She said that people came and found her in the bushes out of nowhere just because her granddaughter was an American citizen. You know what I mean? Like, that's the value of what it means. Like, people talk about it in Sierra Leone all the time. You know what I mean? That blue book, that means a U.S. passport, that blue book. You can literally, as a black person in America right now, you can literally apply for a passport and get your passport. And let's say you're Des Bryant, who hasn't played a football game so far this season, or you're Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't played since 2016, who was in the Super Bowl in 2012. You can literally take your passport and travel to some third world West African country and just go sit and just go start businesses and see what you can do coming back to America back and forth. Making money while helping people over there, while helping people over here. You invest in your money, you're not being up on your body no more. I bet you will make more money doing that than you ever will making playing football. I told you earlier. He said Olajuwon made more money off of running his real estate businesses than he did off of playing basketball. And he played basketball where they paid him more, he got banged up less. Y'all play football where they ain't pay y'all that much, and y'all got banged up a lot more. I'm just saying, man, it's the nature of the beast. Some great smart-ass NBA players in the 60s and 70s protested during an All-Star game. They said they wasn't gonna come out and play till they got to the table and talked about getting some benefits and some bigger shares of shit. You know what I mean? They fought for some shit. They ain't got to worry about that. That last lockout was just LeBron and Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade and them and Chris Bosh and them solidifying certain shit that they needed to have solidified. You know what I mean? Kobe and them was all there, Fish and them was all in the middle, but at the same time though, that's when LeBron and them established themselves as their generation's decision makers in that sense. You know what I mean? That was like the passing of the torch. That was like the changing of the guard in the NBA with that CBA, with that lockout. Think about it. Every time the NFL has had a lockout, it's been led and pushed by white players in the NFL because they felt like they wasn't being treated right financially. But now it's at the point where it's a racial disparity in the NFL that's not supposed to be, that's not right. I'm just saying. There has never been a racially tinged boycott for the NFL. But there's 70% of the NFL that's African American. If y'all don't show up for the rest of the season, y'all will cost these crackers more money than it will cost y'all. Y'all got half y'all money, and at the end of the day, y'all can justify that, or y'all can wait till like 3/4 of the season, or wait till like the last week of the season, and don't show up. You know what I mean? Just crash your system for a second. Just or start on the week of selection after baseball season over. After baseball season over, NBA's going on. Yeah, let's see. You know, make some noise, man. In the season of the War of 1812. Thanks, Eagles. That was a beautiful score. Y'all like this boy is a fool. Hey, if by now I'm not your favorite African's favorite African, I don't know. You must have voted for Trump or something. But I digress, sir. The high stakes are now lost on Ainsley. This is a moment that's a once in a 50-year opportunity, and it calls for maximum effort. He said in a recent interview with Vox. How the map is shaping up. Out of the 36 total governors' races this year, 26 are held by Republicans. And of that number, 13 are in states that Barack Obama won in previous presidential cycles. That fact alone has Democrats feeling confident. Nah. That's a good sign, I guess. I need to stop. Maybe I need to start sounding a little bit more optimistic. Maybe I need to start portraying a little bit more optimism. I am optimistic though because at the end of the day I believe we can do it. I just feel like we don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Like I know we can do it. I'm optimistic in that sense, but I'm realistic at the fact that we don't normally do it. And I hope that we can put aside that bad habit of not normally doing it this time and, you know, handle business, you know what I mean? I just wear all Fox News racist on to my folks, yo. Talk about handle business after saying all that. I'm sorry, yeah. Your son coming up. Out of the 36 total governors' races this year, 26 are held by Republicans, and of that number, 13 are in states that President Barack Obama won in previous presidential cycles. That fact alone has Democrats feeling confident. Election day 2017 was also an encouraging sign. They were able to hold on to the Virginia governor's seat and flip the one in New Jersey previously held by Republican Chris Christie. It's a huge wide open playing field, said Elizabeth Pearson, executive director of the Democratic Governors Association. States whose term limited Republican governors are stepping down already have a very crowded state States whose term-limited Republican governors are stepping down already have a very crowded slate of Democratic candidates vying for the primary. As Michigan Governor Rick Snyder prepares to depart, 7 Democrats have so far filed to run, with the number expected to grow. The Republican field in Michigan is similarly crowded. There are already 9 Democratic candidates running in Maine, as controversial Republican Governor Paul LePage's term is up this year. And in New Mexico, there are 4 candidates running to replace Republican Governor Susana Martinez. Excuse me. Even with so many candidates running, some names have already risen to the top. In Maine, Democrat and current Attorney General Janet Mills is seen as a front-runner. Mills is a long-time legislator and known for standing up to LePage, and in many political fights on issues ranging from healthcare to declining to sue the federal government at the LePage administration's request. 2 other female candidates, former Michigan State Senate Minority Leader Gretchen Whitmer and Representative Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico, are also leading the pack in their respective states. Whitmer has been outspoken on Michigan issues, including the state's opioid epidemic and the Flint water crisis. Yo, speaking of Flint, Kuz. Kuz looking good. Yo, what up, Kuz? Oh, I can't wait to see you against Houston tonight. Can't wait to see you against Houston tonight. She gonna be I digress though. Incumbent governors are usually more difficult to challenge, but one Republican governor the DGA feels confident they can unseat is Bruce Warner of Illinois, who is embattled and unpopular within his own party. Warner is also likely to face a primary challenge this year. We were always going to be on this offense this cycle, Pearson said. We're really excited by the cycle. It is a big map and we're going to try to keep it as big as possible. Democrats also have incumbent governors in cities they are defending, including in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania. DGA officials are feeling optimistic after Alabama voters sent Democrat Doug Jones to the Senate in December, showing in part that Republicans are torn between establishment candidate and hardline conservatives like Roy Moore, who lost to Jones amid a sexual misconduct scandal. That helped open up a path for Jones, the first Democrats Alabamans have sent to the Senate in 25 years. What they showed us is that Republicans are extremely divided. That division, their power is going to continue to be a factor. Please, the good-hearted Republicans who believe in what I'm trying to accomplish here, yeah, please, man. You know, my fellow cigarette-smoking, ganja, Willie Nelson loving, Mary Jane, I'm just saying, y'all know who I'm trying to reach. I'm just saying, even y'all who still love Dr. King and Barack, Pearson said the DGA is looking for Democratic candidates who can both appeal to the party's left-wing base and capture independents disenchanted with the Republican Party under Trump. That could be a tall order in the Democratic Party whose base is shifting leftward, but Pearson says she is feeling optimistic. We can do both, and we have to do both. Inslee says the Democratic Party is trying to course-correct an electoral formula that focuses on the biggest races for the White House and Congress. That strategy has left them vulnerable in the states. Republicans have been able to capitalize on that, building formidable majorities in state legislatures races over the course of the 2010 and 2014 midterms. Just say Tea Party and racism. In addition to the 33 Republican governors in office, Republicans currently control 66 out of the 99 state legislative. I got 99 problem, but these Republicans is all of them. Thanks, Jay. Oh man, I truly got 99 powers, and these Republicans are all of them. The one thing that's not a problem is the fact that I'm black in America. don't ever look at it as a problem, yo. If you're black in America, don't ever look at it as a problem. They see it as a problem because they fear your intellectual capacity, your intellectual potential. Keep it mentally weak and physically strong. I'm just saying, man. There's an old adage, so keep a secret from a black man, put it in a book. Pick up a book, man. Come on, yo, please, man. You know, man. I couldn't even. In addition to the 33 Republican governors in office, Republicans control 66 out of the 99 state legislative chambers in the United States. That's 2/3. That's 2/3 right there. Like they. For too long, the national team has just focused on Washington, D.C., Inslee said. The Democratic team has finally realized we have to build infrastructure in state and local communities. Gerrymandering is a huge factor. Though there are often more attention to the U.S. House and Senate races during the midterms, governors' races are especially important in 2018, with consequences for years to come. That's in large part due to the issue of gerrymandering and the act of redrawing legislative districts in individual states to benefit a particular political party. The 2018 midterms will be hugely consequential because they're the elections before the 2020 census, when voting districts will be redrawn. So yeah, man. And please, man, you gotta make sure that there has to be a blue wave, so there shouldn't be a citizenship question in the census. It shouldn't be. Like, there's nothing un-American about not wanting to have that on there. I'm telling ya, like, whichever way you lean, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you can literally be a Trumpite American and believe that you're right, I'm wrong. I take your word for it, I respect your position. But the census, by definition, wants to know how many people reside there, not just how many citizens. Because as soon as you start doing that, you start taking away from people like myself who contribute, but without the citizenship factor to go along with it. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Every citizen encounters about 10 to 20 people every day that is not a citizen. That's America, that's a fact. You can't run away from that. If that wasn't the case, Ancestry.com and 23andMe.com would not have existed. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, you know. That's in large part due to the issue of gerrymandering, the act of redrawing legislative districts in individual states to benefit a particular political party. The 2018 midterms will be hugely consequential because they are the elections before the 2020 census, when voting districts will be redrawn. Redistricting happens every 10 years to reflect population changes. It is important, yeah. Like, I'm trying to tell you, man, like, you can't sleep on this year. You can't sleep on 2019. You can't sleep on 2020, 2021. Try to tell y'all, man, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden as vice president will make a great 8-year run. Obama's record, they would, all pun intended, trump Obama's economic achievements. Awumbawe. Second, now let me stop here. Let me stop. This crack is gonna kill me. This crack is gonna kill me. This is awesome, right? Like the Washington Post just sent me this morning. It says, close the whole thing. Trump's border frustration comes to a head. And he has a picture of some migrants at some border fence trying to jump in the river somewhere. By David Nakamura, Josh Dowsey, and Nick Miroff, October 19th. The Trump administration's struggles to curtail illegal immigration has exposed a deep rift among the president and his top advisors, one that could lead to changes in the cabinet and undermine the government's response to a recent surge of migrant families at the southern border. Even as President Trump continued to consider immigration to be a political winner next month in helping turn out his conservative base for midterm elections, tension in the in the West Wing, it's so much whiteness in that motherfucker right now. I can't help but to call that shit the White Wing. Tensions in the West White Wing have reached a boiling point. A profane shouting match over immigration this week among top aides prompted Chief of Staff John Kelly to storm out of the White House and marked the culmination of weeks of mounting anxiety, several senior administration officials said. He probably walked out and went and smoked a cigarette. Trump's own escalate in frustration has led him to excoriate aides for not taking more aggressive actions and to offer his own ideas, officials said. He has ruminated this week over the possibility of sending more soldiers to the border. Does that sound like Arab response to the Arab Spring? Even though thousands of National Guard troops have been deployed there since April, with no evidence of a deterrent effect. In the summer, the president was so upset by the border numbers that he proposed sealing the entire 1,954,000-mile U.S.-Mexican border, including shuttering legal ports of entry, blocking trade flows, and halting tourism and travel, according to the senior administration official who speak on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive internal deliberation. I know how to say anonymity. Our president don't. Anonymity, 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 anonymity. What's up, dumbass? Dumb fuck. Close the whole thing, Trump demanded at one point during an Oval Office meeting. He was talked out of it by advisors who highlighted the effect such a measure will have on more than $600 billion in U.S.-Mexico annual trade, as well as the potential damage to bilateral relations, according to the officials. Yeah, see, that's the reason why I keep proposing so much that entertainers, American entertainers, athletes, wealthy, American millionaires of African descent, there's an opportunity, there's a gap, there's an opening that's been created, there's a vacuum, there's a void. This dumbass is literally starting and pissing shit, is fucking shit up when it comes to trade. This is an opportunity to actually take advantage of the fact that the same thing that the white man saw in China in the 80s and 90s, Africa has that right now. But the difference is we shouldn't do our own people like that if we are going to take advantage of the fact that the labor is available. You know what I mean? I'm not asking you to go get Africans and bring them to America. You can do that through programs, through job trainings, through your job and all that, but all I'm asking you is to go invest and do it the right way and make high quality products with raw material abundantly available and resources there for you to do, and link that with your own people here in America. You could literally have marketing offices out here right now with brothers and sisters taken off the street and actually being put in places to market and sell items like shampoo, body wash, bars of soap, towels, slippers, bedroom slippers, blankets, mattresses. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, man, at the same time, while you have those people, what do you think $600 billion in U.S.-Mexico annual trade signifies? Half of what we put on our backs, half of what we go through, is part of all these trades the U.S. have with these companies. Trades with China, trades with Malaysia, trades with the Philippines, trades with Thailand, trades with Singapore, trades with Mexico, Canada, Bahrain, Germany, England, South Africa. I bought a piece of fruit in a newsstand at New Carlton Metro Station in the Amtrak that had a sticker on it that says product of South Africa. Come on. That's what trade is. You know what I mean? And who are part of this trade? Normal, ordinary business people. This $600 billion is now one person controlling all that money. No, it's a bunch of different small little businesses here. Billy Bob on this company making this. Juan Pedro on that company over there making that. Jose Canseco got this company snitching about something else. What are Ricky Rose? I ain't heard from you in a minute. What's up, fool? You know what I mean? I'm just saying, man. There's a void. This idiot has subconsciously, unbeknownst to his racistness, to his racist whiteness, created an opportunity for Black America in conjunction with Brown America in these United States to take advantage and think on a global scale outside of our communities, and just on an individual collective level take advantage of something that could change our futures. My neighbor's 4, 5, or 6-year-old shouldn't have to worry about having to pay for college after graduating high school when they turn 17 and 18. The average white child don't have to worry about that because of white wealth that was created over the last 2-3 centuries. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I digress though. Close the whole thing, Trump demanded at one point during an Oval Office meeting, the official said. He was talked out of it by advisors who highlighted the effect such a measure will have on more than $600 billion in U.S. trade and in U.S.-Mexico annual trade, as well as the potential damage to bilateral relations, according to the officials. The worsening immigration numbers are particularly fraught for Trump, who centered much of his 2016 campaign around incendiary vows to build a border wall, which has not been built, and has begun focusing on immigrants as a dire threat in the final weeks before the November 6 midterms. If I haven't proven my point that I am the absolute triple threat to fucking white supremacy, that's why I'm hoping black folks see where I'm coming from with all this, you know what I mean? I think people will. I have worked with enough good-hearted folks in this country for them to look past whatever differences they might have had with me or they have with me, and to tell whoever is next to them that, hey, that man might be onto something there, you know what I mean? I'm just saying. I am onto something here. I'm not bullshitting when I'm saying I'm onto something here. Oprah said it best, there's a new day on the horizon. Like that Nelson Mandela said the same thing back in the, what did he say? Nelson Mandela said, I quote, "The sight of freedom looming on the horizon should encourage us to redouble our efforts." Trying to tell y'all, man, like, if you black in America, you still feel like that Latino person that lives down the street from you, down from you, is, yes, quote unquote, taking advantage of you, or they might be illegal, or they don't speak it because of that. Like, put yourself in their shoes. This is a new land for most immigrants in this country. Every immigrant in this country who's new in this country, it's a brand new fucking world for them. You know what I mean? Like, it is a daunting experience. Take it from a 13-year-old who had to deal with it, who had to listen to fellow black kids call him an African booty scratcher, or ask him if this is the first time he wearing clothes on his back. You know what I mean? I get it. Like, back then as a 13-year-old, I had my little comebacks and all that, but I grew up to realize that they've been brainwashed to think in such a manner. You know what I mean? So I digress. I digress. Experts say the White House is training under the same political dilemma that past administration encountered in trying to manage a massive U.S. immigration system despite Congress's inability to strike a comprehensive legislative reform package. Trump is hitting the limits of what he is legally able to do through executive authority, they said, and the U.S. has relatively few tools to deal with the gang violence, poverty, and hunger propelling a mass exodus of Central American migrant families over the past 5 years. The tension between the White House and the Department of Homeland Security reminds me of when people try to characterize stopping illegal immigration as a willingness problem and accuse the Obama administration of not wanting to stop it, said John Sandweg, who served as a high-ranking DHS official under President Barack Obama. This administration is learning the hard way. It's not a lack of willingness, it's just our ability as a government to do so that is limited. White House officials is limited because there's a lot of people who believe that it shouldn't be dealt with. It should be stopped all the way, and that's not right. There's a way to do it comprehensively. There absolutely is. People just gotta have an open mind about shit. Take it from me, or take it from somebody who you know is an immigrant. You think might be illegal or not legal, and you don't know, but you think they are when they might not even be. If you illegal in this country, you ain't got no social security number, you can't vote. You can't join the military. If you do, if you get some kind of papers that way, you got that shit fraudulently. White House officials have played down the tensions. After news broke Thursday about the squabble just outside the Oval Office between Kelly and National Security Advisor John Bolton over the performance of Homeland Security Secretary Christian Nelson, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders issued, man, that was just a cacophony of racist ass motherfuckers' names that I just called. Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, oh, she don't go by Huckabee no more? Oh, she dropped the Huckabee? She dropped her daddy name. Her daddy making too many racist comments. That name doesn't play well anymore. They're losing. Too much racism is coming out to make him look bad in a bad light. They dropped the Huckabee. I've noticed everybody has dropped the Huckabees in the last 2-3 months or so. I don't know what's going on. Did she get divorced? I mean, she can't get divorced from her own name. She just decided to take her husband's name all of a sudden. She's finally decided to not be an equal in the relationship, to be subservient to him now. That's what's going on, Sarah. I'm sorry. Still burning some lies, huh? What's up, Michelle? Wolfie? But Kelly was audibly cursing as he left the White House grounds, and he did not return that day. According to people with knowledge of the situation, yo, John Kelly wanted to smoke the blunt. He like, I'm done with these motherfuckers, man. You mean? He like, pass me that blood touch and let me like this big head. Be knock on wood boy. This black cloud ass in the motherfucking White House. Let me stop. Hey yo, why go on, yeah? Why go on? It's like that. Let me stop here. Yo, that shit used to kill me, yo. How Sierra Leoneans or Nigerians or just Africans, period, be trying to think like they Jamaicans and shit. That shit used to be funny. That shit's still funny to this day. The blow-up came after Nielsen, during a White House meeting, had touted an effort by the Mexican government to enlist help from the United Nations Relief Refugee Agency to process asylum claims from a caravan of thousands of Honduran migrants traveling north towards the United States. Trump has demanded that the Mexican government disband the group and threatened to cut off foreign aid or upend a new trade deal if he fails to do so. That's how you know this guy's a liar, yo. He had already cut off funds to like 4 or 5 South American and Central American countries already, like 260 million what? We saying shit in foreign aid for real, especially amongst countries, but I digress though. Nielsen characterized the UN involvement as a significant measure that could help stem the flow, according to administration officials. You see, I like Nielsen for taking this route because at the end of the day, she's maybe coming to her senses a little bit with the whole foreign policy thing. I don't know who broke it down to her. I don't know if she had a conversation with Madeleine Albright. I hope she did. And Madeleine probably, or Condoleezza Rice probably talked to her, let her know that, yeah, you gotta calm down with that shit, man. Bolton, a longtime critic of the United Nations, responded that the international body was ineffective and expressed disbelief at Nielsen's view, the official said, prompting an argument over the DHS's chief's performance. Kelly, who served as the head of that agency for the first 6 months of Trump's tenure and handpicked Nielsen to replace him, jumped in to defend her. The White House wants to see more passion, energy, and a more proactive approach, rather than waiting for the president to get pissed off and then come up with a solution. One senior DHS official familiar with the dispute said of Nielsen, Trump backed both Bolton and another influential senior White House aide, Stephen Miller. That sounded Monica racist ass white boy. Who also has been critical of Nielsen. The conflict, you see, that's how you know he's on the wrong side of history, and she might be on the right side of history, even though she's still in bed with the devils, you know. But sometimes you can do good even sitting at the right hand of the devil. So, you know, it just depends on where your heart is at. What you say, you know what I mean? The momentousness of the moment, I guess, if that sounds right. The conflict has reverberated through DHS amid speculation that Nielsen is among the cabinet members most at risk of losing her job after the midterms. Kelly has defended Nielsen repeatedly, drawing eye rolls from other staff members. At senior staff meetings, he has often praised Nielsen, even though her name had not come up, according to 2 people who have attended meetings. It was counterproductive for her, one of those people said. Kelly's overprotection of her actually hurt her. A former colleague of Nielsen said there would be no immediate replacement if she departs, noting that the deputy DHS secretary role has been vacant since Elaine Duke's departure in February. I forgot about that. So there hasn't had a number 2 at the Department of Homeland Security. Since February. Know what that means though? That just means that whatever infrastructure the Obama administration had put in place, 1 year after his administration left, the department is still functioning well, keeping America safe. Keeping America safe at the same time without a number 2. That's not a testament to the people there. That's a testament to the system that's been in place already, that was inherited 7 years after it was created, after September 11. I told you, 9/11, September 11, 2011, 2001, changed the fucking world, yo. History will look back on that day. Social media wouldn't have been possible. The acceleration that led to social media eventually would not have been possible if it wasn't for 9/11 and the need to want to monitor everything that came afterwards with the creation of DHS and all that, and the Patriots Act. The Patriots Act was a Pandora's box of ultimate Pandora's boxes. Yes, people argue all the time that the Obama administration made it worse. Even Clint Eastwood and them, man, Damon and them, they came out and said that's why. I get it. The man was facing a wall at a time that had so much hatred and so much angst against America that Bush was responsible for, that he had to deal with it in a way that he had to deal with it. Certain entities had to be crushed and messages had to be sent in certain ways that America was using everything he had at his disposal. Even if I'm going to listen to what I get it. Edward Snowden did what he did, but he could have quite literally accomplished exactly what he wanted to accomplish, namely being a whistleblower, without having to go through the channels of going through Hong Kong and eventually ended up in Moscow. That was a that was a screen move though. That was a shell game move, you know what I mean? Him going to Hong Kong first at that airport and then going to Moscow after that, that was a shell move. You know what I mean? That was circa 1979, 1981, circa 1981 KGB Cold War move. And Putin knew that. He probably was in the room as a young lieutenant when that move was first implemented by the KGB during the Cold War days. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I've studied this man since his rise to power. I know who I'm talking about. I'm afraid I'm saying these things about him, but I'm just speaking truth, man. He knows I'm speaking truth. He's just probably admiring how much credit I'm giving him. You know what I mean? That's what Putin is. And Trump is probably getting a hard on right now that I'm talking about his daddy like that. What up, dumbass? I'm sure she's exhausted, but I think she would like to stay a little bit longer, at least to serve for a year, the person said, noting that Nelson has been in the role for only 10 months. Hey, she just had that baby. That baby's a month old, 4 weeks old baby. She tired. She won't be gone. She want out that relationship. Like, baby daddy some shit. Huh? The internal strife threatens to make an already challenging situation even more arduous. In 2014, the Obama administration faced a humanitarian crisis at the border when tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors and families with children overwhelmed patrol stations. The situation prompted a broad emergency response from the federal government that included Congress approving new resources, including additional money to house the children, not to lock them up and separate them from the families, and a $750 million aid package to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, the Northern Triangle nations where most of the migrants are coming from. That was in 2014. The Obama administration did all that and still reduced the federal deficit by about $200 million in that time. America was great. General, this party also, this problem also where then tens of thousands of unaccompanied minors and families with children then get a direct correlative connection to what happened will lead to my absence in your life after you were born in 2014. You know, that later on, I hope you see the context and the point of view from where I try to explain that to you. It no matter at which age you dey listen to these words right now, it no matter at which age. You could be 34 years of age right now. You could be listening to this right now. No matter at which age you listen to that, you understand it. Just understand, say, the context of everything what a leader do and a congressional body do affects the people in their nation directly and indirectly alike. You know, I know I don't say I'm plenty time, but I just say I'm more for say and say, why I don't say I'm. You understand it?